Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and Apple released iOS 26.6.1 RC, or Release Candidate. iOS 26.6.1 RC is available to developers and public beta testers, and should be the final version released to developers and beta testers before it's released to the public, and it should be the same exact build. We'll talk about that in a moment. Initially, there was some confusion where this release was thought to be to the public, or we weren't sure if it was a beta or RC because people weren't seeing it. It's been confirmed to be an RC according to Aaron P613 on X, where Apple has actually updated one of their sites here to include RC after the updates. Now, if you're on iOS 27 Beta 5, this won't be shown if you go into your settings because you're on a newer version. You would need a computer in order to downgrade. Now, this came in at 8.99 gigabytes on the iPhone 17 Pro Max, was also released with an iPadOS 26.6.1 RC, macOS 26.6.2 RC, and even an iOS 18.7.10 RC, and an iPadOS version to go along with that. Also, Apple released iPadOS 27 Beta 5 along with all the updates with macOS 27 Golden Gate Beta 5, tvOS, HomePodOS, visionOS, and watchOS. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the build number and talk about what's new. We'll go into Settings, General, Software Update, tap on More Details, and then we'll tap on the version number. As you can see, the build number is 23G82. If there's no additional issues, this should be the final build released to the public. If you're a beta tester or developer, you'll just have it a little bit early. If there are more issues they need to resolve, we could have a different build number by the time it releases to the public. As far as new features, well, there is no modem update going from the previous version of iOS 26.6 to 26.6.1. No changes there, and there's no visible features that you can see. In fact, it says this update provides security fixes for your iPhone. Initially, it was thought this could resolve an issue with some automation issues within shortcuts, but so far it seems that people are still having those issues. So if you're using automations, that issue could still be there. But let me know in the comments below if you're still experiencing it or it's actually resolved it. Like I mentioned, it should be a security update basically. So if we take a look at Apple's security release website, and if we take a look at Apple's security releases and scroll down, you'll see some recent releases with macOS Tahoe 26.6.1 and iOS 26.6. There's no update yet for iOS 26.6.1, and the only thing listed for macOS has to do with screen sharing, where an impact was an attacker on the network may be able to authenticate to screen sharing without valid credentials. They fixed it where an authentication issue was addressed with improved state management. Now, whether or not this is the same security release in iOS 26.6.1, we don't know yet, but Apple also is releasing a macOS 26.6.2, so maybe there's additional updates here, but they'll typically update this after it's released to the public. As far as anything else, we could see some enterprise updates, but it's unlikely now that we're at a .1 after it. So you'll see on Apple's website, we have 26.5, 26.6, and so on. So at this point, I wouldn't expect any enterprise updates. And as far as bugs and bug fixes, well, if we scroll down here, you can see all of the latest releases, but on iOS 26.6.1, if we go to the release notes, it actually brings us to iOS 26.6. So there's no release notes whatsoever. So at this point, it looks like it just may be a couple security updates, but we don't really know for sure. Apple released an AirPods beta firmware update for the public beta this time around, and that's for iOS 27 Beta 5. So if we open this up and connect it, you can actually see the updated version number on iOS 26.6.1, but you won't have the features as you'll need iOS 27 for that. If we scroll down, you can see the updated version is 9A336B. This is the same as the developer version, but we have the same build as well for the public beta. So they've just released both of those, and that's available now for AirPods Pro 2, AirPods Pro 3, AirPods 4, AirPods 4 with active noise cancellation, and AirPods Max 2. Unfortunately, other AirPods are not supported, but you can see the version and the case number there. As far as anything else, there were no additional releases. However, we do expect, of course, future updates very soon. So based on what we know from the past here, let's go into our calendar. Now, based on what we typically see, I would expect iOS 26.6.1 to release to the public probably on Monday. Now, we could see it later this week. They have released some macOS 26.6.1 updates like that, but we probably will see it Monday. And since Apple's been releasing those alongside iOS 27 betas, we could also see iOS 27 Beta 6 and Public Beta 4. We don't know this for sure, but that's typically what we would see. So Monday and Tuesday, hopefully they spread them out between the two different days, and we'll see the releases like that. But we don't know for sure at this point. Also, in a couple weeks, we should expect the Apple invites to go out for the iPhone event like it typically does every year. And then, of course, we'll have iOS 27 released to the public in mid-September after that Apple event at some point. So, of course, I'll keep you updated with all the latest updates on that, and hopefully we'll see the same pattern this year. Now, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 26.6.1, well, that really depends what version you're already on. If you're a beta tester testing out iOS 26 versions, you definitely could install it. It seems to be stable so far. But again, it is a beta, but it should only be a security update, so I would not expect it to impact anything else. So when it comes to things such as performance, I did see a little stutter already. That seems to be typical, whether it's ProMotion. ProMotion seems to be pretty smooth, but if we swipe back, you'll see the frame rate isn't quite up to what we'd expect. Go into things such as music, podcasts, go back in, back out. It seems smooth here, but typically it will slow down after a few days with these updates. But we'll have to wait and see. iOS 27 seems to resolve much of those issues. When it comes to battery life, again, this will take a few days to measure. Typically, people are seeing great battery life on iOS 26.6, easily getting through the day. For example, this is from Abhishek running an iPhone 16e with 92% battery health, and you'll see he had 5 hours and 17 minutes of screen on time, 52 minutes of screen off time with 66% of the battery. Again, I would not expect iOS 26.6.1 to impact battery, but it will take a few days for things to index, update in the background, so expect poor battery for at least a couple days, and then it should improve. When it comes to storage, just for those who are curious, if we go to General and then iPhone Storage, take a look here, you'll see iOS is taking up 21.98 gigabytes total, with Apple Intelligence taking up 7.53 gigabytes, iOS 14.44. Seems to be about average at this point. iOS 27 is definitely taking up a lot more. System data is only 2.6 gigabytes. This could go up to 60 gigabytes. It comes up and down depending on what it needs, and it's really not something you need to look at unless it's taking up so much storage that you can't install an app. As far as benchmarks, I did run those initially, and you may have seen that stutter there as well, but if we go into Geekbench 7, go to our CPU benchmarks, I ran this just a little bit ago, and we have 3,266 for single core, 8,944 for multi-core. It's actually about the same we saw before, slightly better by 1 point with multi-core than before, and slightly worse by 4 points with single core. So it's right where we would expect it, but that's compared to the public release of iOS 26.6. The only other thing worth mentioning is actual heat and thermals. So far, I have noticed zero heating up on this update, and it seems nice and cool. Even right after installing it, no issues whatsoever. But we'll be testing it. We'll talk about it in the weekend follow-up, along with iOS 27 Beta 5 and Public Beta 3. Let me know your experience in the comments below, and of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already, though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.